Joanna Walters, and I'm currently a first year at Harvard College, concentrating in computer science with a secondary in economics. I graduated from Kennedy High School in 2021 and was a recipient
Good evening, parents and students. I am Dr. Sadhu, the proud principal of Kennedy High School, home of the Fighting Irish. I just wanted to thank you all for being here tonight and taking time out of your schedules. I hope that you find this presentation extremely useful and meaningful, and I think you will. We also have former Kennedy students here who are part of the IB program, and you will hear from them as well. You are free to ask questions. We have our amazing IB coordinator as well, who's going to go over a presentation with you. So you will learn a lot tonight, and feel free to ask questions. The IB program at Kennedy is the only IB program in our district. This program is extremely unique and special. It helps students grow intellectually, socially, and emotionally through challenging coursework, reflection, and self-awareness practices that are built into the program's coursework. In addition, the program's requirements foster the habits of mind necessary for students to meet the demands of college-level work immediately after high school. The IB program is the premier program. I have relatives that have gone through the program and will come back and share stories about how once they got to college, they felt that the IB program prepared them for the coursework. And they didn't hesitate, and they said that they would do it again. The IB program helps students who want to challenge themselves and have a competitive edge over non-IB students. Being in the IB program, like I said, is a very special experience for students. I have a quote from a former IB program student and Kennedy alumni, Joanna Kim. She had this to say about the IB program. She currently attends UCLA as a neuroscience major on the pre-med route. She said she is incredibly lucky to have joined the IB program, and it definitely prepared her for higher education beyond Kennedy. The research opportunities of IB definitely prepared her to do research in college, which is crucial. Additionally, she said the IB community is extremely supportive, and the teachers in IB are one of a kind. Certainly, the benefits of IB, according to her, outweigh the sacrifices. The IB program places Kennedy at the top tier of high schools in our district and the surrounding communities. By attending Kennedy High School and being a part of the IB program, your student has the opportunity to gain valuable skills that they will need not only in college, but beyond when they get their job. They will also make lifelong friendships. You'll hear from them about the social aspects of the IB program that is not just focused on academics, but there is that socialization that is also built into the IB program. And they will learn from some of the best teachers in the district. After tonight's presentation, I hope that you do see the true value in the IB program and how we are all here to support your student through their educational journey. So I'm going to hand it over to our amazing IB coordinator. This woman is special. She is super supportive. She is kind, she is caring. She will help your students the moment they step foot on this campus to the moment they graduate. And clearly, she keeps connections with our students after high school so that they can come back and talk to our future Kennedy and IB program students. So please give it up for Kaylee Letterman, who is going to give you a presentation on IB tonight. Thank you.
Hi, thank you again so much for being here. I know some of you come from different parts of the district and actually traveled quite a bit here. Tonight, I want to give an introduction on what the IB program looks like and what the IB learner looks like. We'll go into the requirements to participate in the program. We'll talk about the 3 reasons why I feel the IB program is beneficial to students and separates it from being an AP student. We'll talk about the transfer process. We do have a student panel here today, and then we will talk about individual questions. At the very end, I do have some Chromebooks set up in the lobby. If you would like to go through that transfer form with support with us here, we will also be able to help you with that tonight. So first of all, I am the coordinator of the IB program. I am also a teacher, but I'm part teacher, part coordinator. I am different than a counselor because I am very specific to the IB program. I do help students with some of the counseling required or job descriptions. I do course planning, I talk to the students about their schedule, make sure they qualify for all of the different, so like to get their high school diploma, then to be A through G, so the requirements to be eligible for Cal States and UCs. Then I also make sure they can be eligible to get their IB diploma. I coordinate the internal assessments and the external assessments, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. That's one of the differences between an AP class and an IB class. I also write colleges of letters of rec. So when our seniors apply to colleges, I act as their counselor, and I'm able to explain to colleges that they're an IB student and what separates them from the typical high school student. I work as a liaison between the IB and the other teachers, and between the district and the IB community. I have had some meetings that Dr. Sidhu can attest to with some of the district board fighting for our students and to keep our program strong and the support for our students. So when talking tonight, I will stress a few times that IB is a program. It's not just a bunch of classes. It's one of the ways that it separates from AP. And part of the way it is if you see from this slide, the core there, the TOK, which stands for Theory of Knowledge, the CAS and the extended essay, I'll talk about those briefly. Each goes through the whole program. So on the outside, you can see that we have our topics that we study. There are 6 of these subjects that students need to take IB coursework in, and they're English, math, the arts, sciences, and then we have the core that's on the inside, the theory of knowledge, creativity, action, and service. These are some of the service learning projects, stuff like that makes IB a program. And then on the inside, we have the approaches to teaching and the approaches to learning that the teachers of the IB program have to go to training for to integrate into their teaching of the IB subjects. The 3 subjects can be higher level, 3 subjects can be standard level. So I will go into this a little bit in the next slide, but the difference between a higher level course for IB and standard level is the amount of years you're in the course. So a higher level course, you're actually in for 2 years. So you'll take the HL1, the higher level year 1 class as a junior, and then you'll take the higher year level 2 class as a senior. All of our students at Kennedy, because to graduate high school, you need 4 years of English. They're in English, IB, both their junior and their senior year. My physics class that I teach, I'm actually the IB physics teacher, is a 2-year class. So they take my physics class both junior and senior level. The SL class is only a 1-year class. So some of the subjects that we teach, like the world languages, you can choose whether you're going to take it for an SL, a 1-year class, or a 2-class HL. The big difference in the classes is when the exam is. So at the end of all the IB classes, there is an IB exam similar to an AP test. With the SL classes, you can take those junior or senior year, and the test will be at the end of that year. So if you take it as a junior, you would take your IB exam in that class at the end of your junior year. The HL you take at the end of the class still, but that would be your senior year because you're in it both junior year and senior year. So I'll go, next slide, go into the coursework a little bit. So the 6 groups, I apologize, the 6 groups you see there, group 1 is language A, that is English. So our students will take the English HL class, both their junior, they'll take HL1, and their senior, they take HL2. It's the literature class, and they will take their IB exam and write their IB English paper during their senior year. The group 2 is their world languages. We offer 3 world languages at Kennedy. We offer Spanish, Korean, and French. The Spanish and Korean we offer as SL and HL, and the French we offer as SL. The SL equivalent for a world language would be reaching that 4th year of study. So having Spanish 1, 2, 3, and then the Spanish 4 would be the equivalent to the SL. The HL would be the equivalent of the 5th year of that course. Then group 3 is individual and societies. We have a history HL class that their junior year would be the AP US class, and then their senior year, it's called the History of Americas class. The psychology we offer both SL and HL, so they could take that 1 year or for 2 years. The experimental sciences, the best one, only because I teach it, right? We have an HL physics class, that's 2 years, so I have those students both their junior year and then their senior year. We have an SL biology class, so that's 1 year. And then IB does count computer science as their science, but a lot of universities do not. So when we counsel students, and when we get to group 6, you'll see, we usually count computer science as one of their electives rather than an experimental science class. Then we have mathematics. We have mathematics pathways for students who are strong in mathematics and maybe students who are not so strong in mathematics. So we have our math analysis and approaches class, which their junior year is equivalent to taking pre-cal honors, and then their senior year is the equivalent to taking that AP calculus class that you probably heard about. There's 2 different levels of calculus. There's A, B, and BC, and our approaches, our analysis and approaches class hit both of those. You can do one or the other. Then we have our math applications and interpretations pathway that is an SL class, so it's 1 year, and it's the equivalent of pre-calculus non-honors. Then we have our group 6, arts and electives. We only offer one specific arts class, and that's the film. The teacher who's actually running our live stream right now is amazing. He's Mr. Corcoran, and he teaches our film class. I wish I had the opportunity to take film. It sounds amazing. They watch films, they analyze films, and then they can create films. And they're in full process of studying why this, I don't know a lot about it. He's gonna cringe, but why in this part of the movie did they use this wide whatever and zoom in, and he's like, oh my gosh. But and then if they do not want to take that film class, they can take another elective class. Like I said about that computer science, some universities don't count it as an experimental science, but if our students want to take it, they can count it as their group 6 as an arts or elective, and it would count as that elective. So one of the differences, so a lot of these classes have equivalents to AP classes. So a lot of what I get questions of, how is this different than AP? So one of the main differences is that they're tested in very different ways. So AP is one test at the end, and it's a very regimented test, very knowledge-based, black and white. With the IB test, there's 2 ways that your students are actually assessed. One's an internal assessment, and then one's an external assessment. That external assessment is an end-of-the-year test where they sit. It has different parts. Several of them have writing. A lot of it is analysis. It's not just regurgitation of information. And then the internal assessment is something they do through their class that looks a little different depending on the topic or the subject, but it's internally assessed, and it's usually like in English, it's an essay. In the world languages, it's an oral presentation that they go back and forth with their teacher that's recorded so that they can prove their knowledge in speaking the language, not just being able to read and answer multiple choice questions. In science, it's them coming up with their own research question. So they, like in physics, they pick a topic in physics that they want to study more. They do research, and then they devise an experiment on how to test one of the aspects of that idea. They test the experiment, they write a conclusion, they do that whole part. In most subjects, the external assessment is roughly like 70 to 75% of their IB grade, and the internal assessment is like 20 to 25%, 30%, it depends, on their IB grade. So the AP only tests based on that one test at the end of the year, and IB does care about the learning process of your student, and they take that into account when they do the grading. A lot of my students, when they do their IA, they say, oh, but I didn't get what I thought I was going to get. Like my experiment went a different way. I got a different conclusion. IB actually loves that. As long as the student can identify that and then talk about it and reflect about it, they value that learning process rather than just the end goal of doing an experiment and getting what you expected and check the box. They're more about the experience. With part of that IA that's in every subject, your student is also required to do university level research with guidance from the teacher, which is another difference between the AP and IB, because depending on what AP classes they take, they could get through all of high school without really doing a research paper, where it's integrated into every single one of the IB subjects they would take. So that's the coursework. Then I talked about how there's the IB core. One of the tenets of the IB core is the extended essay. And the extended essay is a research paper. They do work with their advisor. They get an advisor. They get to pick what subject they would like to write this extended essay in. It is, the upper word limit is 4,000 words, which sounds like a lot, but they have almost a year to write it. So they start their second semester, their junior year, with their junior English teacher, and she walks through the process and what subject do they want to do it in? What is your research question about? Pick your advisor from one of the IB teachers on campus. Then they go through the process of refining, doing research, refining their question, and then depending on what subject, like I had 3 PEs in physics this year, they had to, similar to their IA in physics, they had to do all their research, they had to do their experiments, they had to do all of those steps that is expected in college. It does offer them an opportunity for an individual interest, because this is the interest that they get to choose. It does have to fall into an IB subject, but it could be any of the subjects. We even have them in math, which is kind of interesting. I haven't ever advised one of the math PEs, but our math teachers do, and that's a 4,000 word math paper. I don't know what exactly that would look like, but they do. It also familiarizes the students with independent research and writing skills. Because it is over a year, they do get an advisor that will walk them through some of the steps, but it is a lot of them developing those independent skills that will be very beneficial in college. When we have students come back and talk to us about IB and how beneficial it is, one of the biggest things they bring up is the extended essay. They say their first, week in college in English, the English teacher said, read this and write a 10-page whatever on it. Their classmates freak out, they don't. They're like, I got this, I can figure this out. We can do this, and this. I'm not saying it makes it easy. I'm saying that they feel more prepared to do it because they've done it in the past, especially with the support of the IB advisors when they go through it in high school. The next part of the core is CAS. So it stands for Creativity, Activity, and Service. So this part of the program encourages the students to be involved in artistic pursuits, sports or physical activity for that activity, and community service. So it's the experimental learning portion of the program. It is education outside of their classroom, and the students get to design their own program that they can develop these different aspects of the CAS. They are able to count, like I've had several students in the past who are part of Boy Scouts. Their service learning project that they have to do for IB and their Eagle Scout project work very well together. It's somehow, like they can count that stuff, that their sports, their artistic pursuits through the CAS. There is also a project that's associated with it that they work with other IB students to do a service learning project that they can work together and do something to better their community. IB lets that definition of community be very broad. Sometimes the students work out very broad in the community. Sometimes it's very campus-based. We have one that has gone on for a while that's, I think it's called Kennedy Chic now, right? The name has got, but it's a clothes drive basically. They put boxes in classrooms and students can donate clothes. Then they organize them and put them on tables and let Kennedy High School students go through and pick up some items from that. We also had one a couple years ago where the students did a donation drive for school supplies, and they put together backpacks for elementary school students. And then the next year, in the beginning of the year, they dropped them off at one of our elementary schools that had some students that needed some supplies, and they were able to distribute that. There is also, with the CAS, there's reflective pieces at every step. They have to reflect on what they're getting out of these outside activities and how it's building them up as students, as people, building their character, different aspects of that, and they have to write reflective pieces on each step. The last part of the core is the theory of knowledge. And this actually is a course, but it's a very special course that I feel is very unique in our education system. And if you have some questions about it, some of the seniors would probably be able to answer some later. I think it's an amazing course. Like when the students come ask me questions that their TOK teacher had them ask, like it makes me think about it. And one of the things that they talk about is like, how do we know something? How do we know it's true? And why do we accept facts as facts? Like, you know that the earth, I don't want to get flat earth, but you know we have an atmosphere. But how do you know that? Right? What if someone told you that and you didn't believe it? What proof would you need in order to accept that as a fact? It's very interesting that I think they've morphed this class, especially the TOK teachers, into, I don't know if you have a problem with this with your students, but I answer a lot of questions from IB students that think whatever is said on TikTok is fact. And we know it's not. But sometimes they see it, well, where did you see that? Well, on TikTok. It's not all true. Some of it might be true, but it's not all true. So this is a course that they take over 2 years. The first course is an online format, but it's not synchronous learning, it's asynchronous learning. And they have various meetings with that TOK teacher. That's the class also where they start their CAS and their CAS project. The 12th grade year, it's 100% in-class format. And like I said, it really makes them think about what they take as fact, what we take as knowledge in the different subject areas. If you take something as fact in science, does it have a different qualification if you take something as fact as English? Does it have a more rigorous standard to be a fact in science than it is in English or history or something like that? So that is the program in a nutshell. I know that didn't feel like a nutshell because it felt very long, but now I'm going to kind of transition into talking about the benefits. So there are 3 benefits that I'm going to talk about, that I'm going to focus on. And the first benefit is that Just like an AP class, at the end of the course, when you take that test and you have your internal assessment and your external assessment kind of added together, colleges give credit for that. So the colleges will give standalone credit, meaning if you got a certain score on the IB English test, you will get certain credit in an English class in college. The colleges do view IB as a very special program as well. So for example, at any UC that you go to, if you get a certain score in your IB diploma, so each of the 6 subjects will give you a score. When you add them all up, you get a total score. If your total score is 30 or above, they will give you sophomore status. I'm ahead of my slides, aren't I? No, I'm not. I don't know, but that's what I'm gonna say. And so sophomore status is important, especially. Some students are like, oh, well, I entered as a sophomore. You register when sophomores register. So I don't know if any of you have younger or older students that are in the university or have heard a lot of the freshman classes get impacted. So they can't take the classes they need to, but they get to register when the sophomores register. They have a much better chance of getting those freshman classes when they go. A lot of the privates do the same thing. Chapman is one that around here that grants a lot of IB credit. So it's a similar thing with the AP and the IB, that they get those credits for individual classes. The second point that I want to point out as a benefit is because of the program and the reflective pieces, the research-based pieces in every class, the internal assessments, the extended essay, the fact that it cares about the whole student, not just the student academically. Students perform better when they are in college. So they graduate at a higher rate than non-IB students in the universities. So this is data from the 4-year universities in the United States. So you can see the IB diploma candidates here. These are the people who went through the whole program and tried to get their IB diploma. Within 6 years, and we know some like engineering programs now in college, if you haven't heard, I'm sorry, burst your bubble, are not 4-year programs, they're kind of like 5-year programs. Some of them they stretch to 6 years. Sometimes students don't want to graduate, so they add like 4 minors, and that kind of like makes them a little longer. But so graduating from a 4-year university within 6 years, 76%. If you see all students, non-IB and IB, it's 58%. So they graduate at a higher rate from universities because they are more prepared. This is another graph that kind of shows you this too. When it says DP cohort, that means diploma program. So those are the IB. This is just, oops, sorry, wrong buttons. Right, this is everyone, so you can see public and private. The IB students are graduating at a higher rate from 4-year universities than the students who are not in IB. So that is the second one. They are better prepared. And that goes into the third one. Not only do they graduate, but they graduate at a higher rate because they're more prepared. The third one is that universities do see IB as a different program than being in AP only. When I do the college apps, when students fill out the college apps, there is a special place on the UC application to indicate that you are an IB student. That tells me that those universities care if those students are IB students or not. The privates, when I fill out the Common App app, which is the portal that a lot of the private schools in the United States use to do all of their applications. I have a place to indicate that the student is an IB student. So they get college credit, they're more prepared, and this colleges care if they're an IB student when they do apply for their application for university. So our program statistics, that was hard for me to say, it's late, I apologize. So the number of students taking the IB courses was 118. The diploma candidates that year was 43. We actually have 43 seniors this year and 50 juniors. And the rate of getting the IB diploma was 84%. And then, if you notice, this is 30, the average diploma points, that was the threshold at the UCs of getting sophomore standing. So our average score from our students was at that threshold. So a lot of your students that are here or that you represent may not be in our Kennedy attendance boundary. So as Dr. Sadhu said, and I will say that we are the only IB program in the district. So in order to take part of the IB program, you do have to transfer and attend Kennedy High School. So if you're a student in Kennedy's attendance boundary, you do not have to do anything. You get to come here, and when you're a junior, you get to choose to be in the IB program. If you are not in the attendance, you will have to go through the transfer procedure. It's on the student support services. They are having you fill out that form through the Aries parent portal. So I'm going to have Dr. Sadhu, if she can, click on that link, and hopefully it'll work. Yeah. And if you scroll down, it gives you the directions here on how to fill out the form. So you can go to your parent portal that you have through Aries, and you will see a form that has like the application fields and stuff like that. If you go back to the PowerPoint, please. And then the transfer application, they'll have different priorities of transfer for the district. For special programs, it is a priority 2 transfer type. So the priority 2 transfer type is for special programs and AUHSD employees if an employee wants their student to go to school at the same school they are. But the special programs is what you're indicating there. And then your first school choice would be Kennedy High School. So the other information would be what you would know about yourself and your student. And you would go through that. After you click save, you will get an email from the district saying that they got your application. Our program does not fill up. So we talk to the district, and if you would like to go to Kennedy for the IB program and there's not extenuating circumstances, then you are not put in the lottery system. You are transferred to Kennedy High School. The other priorities, right, I think priority 4, I'm not sure, but one of the priorities is just that it is your choice. Those students are usually put in a lottery at the end, and certain students are able to go or not go. The priority 2 students for special programs for IB are not put in that lottery system. So the last thing before we kind of look at student input, acceptance and enrollment in the IB. So in the 9th and the 10th grade, your student will be enrolled in kind of pre-IB classes, the honors classes. We have the cohort And we do vertical alignment between our honors classes so that they're prepared for the IB classes by the time they reach the 11th grade. The requirement academically is that they can reach the level of pre-calculus by their senior year and the language 4 by their senior year. So if they are in a normal math or language progression, that is what happens naturally. We do not test into our program. One of our schools on the other side of the district, close to our district, they test into the program and they kick a bunch of people out that they don't want in the program. We do not do that. If your student is interested, then they can be part of our program. The IB program, the actual classes do start in 11th grade, and so that commitment to the IB program occurs during the sophomore year. I go to all of the AP Euro classes the sophomore year. I go talk to the honors English the sophomore year, and we go from there, starting point in creating their 2-year plan and all of that stuff. We do, so then I get a lot of questions of, well, can my student transfer at the 11th grade instead of the 9th grade? We do recommend that students take all 4 years at Kennedy High School, one, because we know what the program is, and we can make sure that the 9th and 10th grade classes are leading up to the 11th and 12th grade classes. Two, some of your students will be transfer students, and they will be with students they were not with in junior high. So a lot of the feeder pattern, right? So we recommend there's a natural kind of separation between junior high and high school because they're starting a new school, everything like that. The transition is usually smoother when they do that in the 9th grade than the 11th grade. We have a lot of transfer students that are in our IB program that transferred as 9th grade, and they were concerned about making friends and about not knowing people at high school. We do an amazing freshman orientation, and we're gonna be integrating a lot more stuff into that. They get involved with clubs, everything like that. If they have a problem feeling connected, have them come talk to me. It hasn't really been an issue with our students. They are nervous about it. I think it's a natural nervousness to start high school in general, and then adding a new school with like new people maybe. But our kids will tell you that our IB students are very connected. Part of it is very much a community, and they will meet people and they will get to know people. And we do recommend, like I said, that they transfer as a 9th grader instead of an 11th grader. So unfortunately, my panel tonight does not have any alumni because they all went back to school already. So I do have juniors and seniors who are in the program, and I have a video from one of my students. She was a physics HL student, but she was also part of the diploma program. And so we're going to show her video, and then we're going to have the student panel come up, and we can do some introductions, and then open it up to questions.
Of the IB diploma. Now that I'm at Harvard, I can genuinely say that the IB program prepared and equipped me immensely for my college education. IB's well-rounded, holistic. Hello everyone, my name is Joanna Walters, and I'm currently a first year at Harvard College, concentrating in computer science with a secondary in economics. I graduated from Kennedy High School in 2021 and was a recipient of the IB diploma. Now that I'm at Harvard, I can genuinely say that the IB program prepared and equipped me immensely for my college education. IB's well-rounded, holistic curriculum encourages and fosters critical and analytical thinking, time management skills, and of course, studying and writing skills. To be a bit more specific, my semester of finals this year included a final research paper that was roughly 15 pages in length. At any college or university, it is expected that students are capable of navigating the research process and all of the components necessary to make up an excellent paper. My extended essay and internal assessments provided me with the knowledge and guidance that I needed to write my paper. These components of IB allow students to truly explore their interests as they are able to select the subject of their investigation. The writing skills that I developed through IB were also present in my college admissions essays, and I know that they will continue to be useful throughout the rest of my undergrad and beyond. While I was a junior and senior at Kennedy, I had to learn how to manage, balance, and of course, allocate time to my IB courses and, of course, all the rest of my extracurriculars. As a result of my participation in this program, I am now able to work efficiently and dedicate time to my academics, passions, and extracurriculars. I have found an approach to learning that I use is replicated at Harvard. The thought processing and additional skills that I have developed have guided me and allowed me to succeed in my computer science and math courses. Aside from the beneficial skills that I have established thanks to IB, the community of students and teachers make it so incredibly unique. Throughout the entire program, I felt very supported by my IB teachers and coordinators. They offered additional resources outside of the classroom and really encouraged their students to perform their very best. They truly go above and beyond and want your students to excel. I would not be where I am today without their generous support. I would also like to mention that I have friends at Harvard who were also part of the IB diploma program at their high school, and we have all shared how much this program has provided us with an easier and much smoother transition to college. Thank you all so much for your time, and I am hopeful that my message will resonate with you and help you make the decision to take advantage of the IB program.
Off the projector.
Yes.
And
So I'm gonna start with each one of them, and Jonathan's gonna go first, because, I said so. They're going to tell you a little bit about themselves, and they're gonna tell you what grade, and then what they do outside of IB, and also a little bit of why they joined IB.
Hello, I'm Jonathan, and I'm a senior. I'm also in the band program at our school, and I've been in band all my high school career. I decided to take IB because honestly, I just really wanted to challenge myself, and it has been challenging, so it's lived up to what I expected in that part.
My name is Cameron Rodriguez. I am a senior, and I am a student athlete. I played volleyball all 4 years here at Kennedy. I was part of the varsity team my last 2 years. I was a junior, senior. And I do go out with friends a lot, and I've even done the IB program, so social life, and I still get out. I chose the IB program because my older siblings went through the program, and see how much success they got out of it made me really want to join it because they showed me that IB gives you that sort of ethic to complete college level work at such a young age, and it really has helped me in that regard of managing time well as a student athlete, but also getting good grades. Cool. I'm Isabella. I'm also a part of the theater program. I've been part of theater all 3 years of my second campus. And part of the reason why I joined the theater program was to challenge myself, and also I saw how tight-knit of a community it was, having senior friends last year. And I got to talk to them a lot about their experiences, and I've had similar experiences that they have where I've learned, I truly feel like I've grown a lot as a student, and it's challenged me in a lot of ways, not only as a student, but as just figuring things out about myself. And I think that it's been a really crucial part of my high school experience, and I'm really grateful that I decided to join. Hi, my name is Sophia. I'm a junior, and outside of IB, I run cross country, and I'm captain of our school's mock trial team. The reason I decided to join IB was because I love to challenge myself. I do like having a competitive edge, and I really thought there were some cool opportunities. In IB, like the core class, like TOK has projects. Like these are service opportunities, and like you get to conduct your own research. Like those are things that like a lot of high schoolers like don't normally get to do, and I thought that was really cool. And I'm like, it's been a really like good experience to get to do that. Like genuinely enjoyable.
Okay, so Dr. Sidhu and I have some microphones out here. We are going to now accept questions for specifically the student panel. So if you have specific questions for them, if students would like to ask them questions, if parents would ask them questions, go ahead and raise your hand and we can get a microphone to you.
So I see here on the program, it looks like it's very academic heavy, and I see that you're also doing extracurricular activities, doing sports. So has there been any issues with the program between academics and your sporting events? Has there been any problems where they cross intersect and it's a schedule conflict? And if so, has the staff, like teachers and coaches, have they been very accommodating with those situations? Is there clear communications on that?
In my experience, I'm in a lot of extracurriculars, and a lot of them are very time consuming. So I've had like a lot of conflicts with scheduling before. But most of my teachers, I can't speak for all activities, but most of my advisors have been pretty understanding, and like given me like lenience with like having to manage academics and extracurriculars. But also, it's like I want to know it's not too hard to manage if you know how to manage your time, and I also like help teach you how to manage your time. So like you can do extracurriculars and do IB, and like it can still work. In my experience, I haven't really had that many conflicts because I feel like the teachers and the coaches here are really understanding in like those things. One thing I will say is it can get kind of hard sometimes managing stuff like homework or studying for tests. But I feel like as you go through the program, like as you go from freshman to senior, you really learn how to manage all that. So by the time you get to your junior and senior year, you already know how to study efficiently, you know how to balance time through practices. For me, it has been a little hard, but it's definitely not impossible. It's we have the support of friends, teachers, coaches. It's pretty easy.
Anyone else?
What kind of projects do you guys do in the program? So me, I did biology, so you have the IA. My biology IA, I focused on how photosynthesis is affected by carbon dioxide. And those kinds of projects, it might seem simple, but when you get into high level classes, it gets pretty in depth. So it's really interesting to see how those, how you can really expand on that. And for me, my CAS project was the one Ms. Letterman had mentioned earlier. We helped kids get school supplies in low income areas. So you really get to reach out to the community in that sense.
I would also say that, especially with like going CAS projects, it really leaves you open to doing what you're really passionate about. There's a bunch of different types of projects that, as juniors, that's when you start going into your CAS project and planning it out, and you get to meet up with different people in your grade or in the IB program, and I feel like that's also because they get together with people that are passionate about those same things that you are. For my group, we're going to be starting it in the next couple of weeks actually, where we want to start collecting like little goodies and create cards of like appreciation for nurses and deliver it to them during Nurses Appreciation Week to show like our gratitude for them. And then even in their academic classes, there's also other different projects as well. I'm also in film, and there's the film projects I'll be doing. And also, it's a learning experience, but you also get to tap into your creative side and have fun with it and bond with the other people in your group as well. So there's a lot of different aspects of the program that you get to experience.
My question is similar to the one just asked. What is your research project? What kind of lab work do you get to do? And what kind of help do you get from the teachers?
Yeah, so maybe Jonathan and Karen, you can talk about the EE.
Yeah, so with regards to the EE, it's different than the IA in the sense that you have a lot of freedom with what you can pick. Most of the research Is that you do, like in physics or bio, obviously are going to be focused on like more science-related topics. But for example, with my EE, I focused on poetry, and I analyzed it through a literary lens. And you'll have an advisor that works with you to develop a question at the end of your junior year. And you do also get to select your advisor, so it could be a teacher that you trust or that you feel comfortable working with. And that's something that's, I think, that you experience or students experience in all of the projects that they have. It's been pretty consistent that the teachers have been incredibly supportive and also understanding. It's not difficult if you have a question or if you feel confused to get clarification. So even though all these things seem very difficult, as a student, like in the moment, it's not as challenging as you would expect it to be because your teachers are consistently offering the support that you would need. And from there, you realize that you're capable of doing a lot more than you initially anticipated.
I also had a very similar experience. I did my extended essay in biology, and I got a lot of support from my advisor. I was constantly sending them meetings, even if I had the tiniest question, my advisor would help me answer it. I did get a lot of preparation for the EE in my IB biology class my junior year when I did my IA. So that really helped me prepare how to do that sort of level of research, because the IA is about 2,000 words, and since I already prepared how to do research at that level, doing research for a 4,000 word essay wasn't that challenging because I already had that sort of background. And it may seem really scary to hear you have to do a 4,000 word essay, but as you're going through the entire thing, it's a lot easier than you think because the teachers give you such great support. So.
What was your EE question?
My EE question was, I analyzed how catalase which is an enzyme in yeast, how it's affected by temperature, by concentration of hydrogen peroxide, which hydrogen peroxide can be toxic at a certain level. So I was seeing at what concentration that hydrogen peroxide would damage that enzyme.
Also, so I had really quick insight, like I had five IB seniors in my classroom after school, a few days before their final draft was to be turned in, actually trying to cut down their EE to 4,000 words. By the time they get writing, and they're like, oh no. I wrote too much and now I have to cut it down. So we have that as well. So 4,000 does seem daunting at first, but then when you go through the steps, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm there already.
I just wanted to know what your opinion was when you were going to 9th and 10th, when you're in the honors classes. How much more difficult, in your opinion, is the IB courses and the honors courses?
Personally, I was surprised because I didn't find it that much more difficult. Like when I went into IB, I was expecting like, oh my gosh, that's gonna be so much harder. But I did not find it too much more challenging than doing honors courses. It is, you get to do a lot more things like outside of the actual classes, like the 3 core components. But like the actual classes themselves, like it makes like all this makes it seem very daunting, but I didn't find it too difficult.
I think that, like, to come at it from a different perspective, the transition at first was difficult, not necessarily from like how difficult the work itself was, but more so just finding ways to manage your time. Because I think in the 9th and 10th grade, at least for me, as someone who was taking all the hardest classes that were available at that time, like you're only really given like one AP course that's available to you in your sophomore year, and as a 9th grader, you're not given access to AP courses at all. So then jumping into your junior year, where now you're in an IB program, which is, I would say, harder than any AP class, that can be daunting. But I think that just like being in the classes and then like getting support from the teachers and just getting used to the pace of IB and learning how like you can manage your time and what's best for you. I don't think that anyone was at a point where they were very overwhelmed. It can be challenging, but if you find, like once you settle into the groove, like things become very manageable.
One thing I do really want to know about that transition is that since you're in an IB program, you're surrounded by students and friends who are going through the exact same thing that you are. So in an AP class, you might have people who have experience in AP, people who don't have experience in AP. It's a modge podge of a bunch of different types of students. But when you're in the IB program, it truly is a community, because if you freak out over a project, you freak out about it together, and you get that support. And it's really about making those friendships that help me get through the program.
I would agree, just like she said, especially even with the honors classes, a lot of the students that you're with, you're with the same students in pretty much all your classes, and especially in IB, it's the same kids. You get to form these relationships with them, which I feel like really helps with their transition. Like you're not going through it alone, and then you form that sort of familiarity with everyone. And I think a lot of it has to do with just managing your time and making sure that you're aware of the time that you have and that you're using it as efficiently as you can.
So we'll get to that question next. I do want to say, as IB coordinator, helping with that transition is one of my jobs. Some of the students will call me an Aries stalker. I do stalk them on Aries quite a bit. I do multiple grade checks in that first quarter for the juniors. And I will call the juniors in that I feel are having a hard transition from those honors classes to the IB level, and we talk it through. These students were not on my radar, so they wouldn't know. But I do those meetings, we go through, sometimes I help them time manage. I go through writing down everything that you need to do. When is it due? Let's schedule some of these things out. Can you spend 10 minutes working on that project that's due in a week, every day, stuff like that. So I do part of that. Some of the students do naturally figure it out on themselves. Some of them do not, and I do all that support.
I first of all, I wanted to say that I'm very impressed with all that you shared, and the key word is time management. Now, be honest, were some of you procrastinators in the beginning, and this helped kickstart that self-discipline? And then number two, since you all shared about your passions and interests, was it something that you've already had in you even before Kennedy, or did IB really shape and mold and help you discern your passions and your interests in what you're pursuing?
I would say I was a very big procrastinator before, and that did bite me in the butt a little bit when I was first starting IB. But as you go on in the program, those 2 a.m. study sessions start to become 5 p.m. study sessions as you manage your time more and more. So it's definitely a bit of an adjustment, but I did help me tremendously with that. Like for the extended essay, learning from my junior year mistakes, I actually completed my extended essay in the summer. So by beginning of the senior year, I was pretty much free that entire time. So it did help me to earn that discipline to do that. So in the summer, I have to sit myself down and do the essay. But that discipline comes from being in those IB classes and having those deadlines. And for your question about how IB shaped my passions, I really enjoy biology. I've had that sort of liking to biology prior to entering the IB program, but that's all it was before. It was just a liking to it. As I took the IB biology course, that's when I decided that I wanted to major in biology, so I did apply for a biology major. And it's because of the incredible content that IB goes through. So as opposed to an AP class, AP really focuses on how much knowledge you can learn. But in my IB biology class, I was able to understand why these things work, not learning how much I would know, but it taught me how this works, how this would help, and that really helped me enriching my idea of what biology really means.
To add on to that, a lot of the things done in IB really do help you focus on your interests. Like, for example, CAS is like, you get to focus on, it's really open-ended. It does like have the components of creativity, activity, and service, but like you pretty much get to control what you do to like provide that creativity, activity, and service. And since it is required, it can really help you like dive more into what you're already interested in and kind of like develop that. Also, like some of the like topics covered in doing she mentioned the biology IA. That was also really interesting to me. And like TOK, like the theory of knowledge classes, I was always interested in like philosophy, so that was a really like big subject of interest for me. So there are just a lot of like different opportunities that you don't usually get in like normal programs. This like really helps to like develop interests and just like give new opportunities.
Hello, so are you forced to attend Kennedy High School when you join this program? Or can you go to a different high school while still attending this program?
To my knowledge, I don't think you can. I think you have to be part of the school to be part of the program.
I think we had one. Go ahead. Hi, girls. Thank you so much for writing. I have a question that you guys are keep saying about this time management work, but how many hours you study Friday and weekends with this IB program and honors?
I would say it depends on the day or the week as well. The workload is not always super heavy. Sometimes it's actually really light and you don't have that much to worry about. But I'd say typically consider like with all my classes, I spend about 2 to 3 hours a night, maybe like completing everything that I need to. And but going back to like the time management, still as a junior, I still find myself sometimes struggling to stick to that and find that discipline. So there are nights where, and it's entirely my fault, just like procrastination gets the best of you. But I think like definitely developing that time management skills and like reminding yourself like I could be done with this if I just like set my mind to it. It really shouldn't, like there are nights still where I think a lot of even my friends in the IB program where we're still able to go to sleep around like 10:30, 11 o'clock the latest if it's like a really heavy workload. So I think if you're able to manage your time, you're still able to get everything done and also get some sleep because as much as like the work is important, I think sleep is very important too. Not only just like your mental health, but also just with understanding everything that you're learning in this program and making sure that you're applying it in the way that you.
How about weekends?
Oh, the weekends. Again, I feel like that depends on the workload. But I'd say typically, again, like 2 to 3 hours at most. Especially on weekends, I still have time to spend time with my family or to like read a book or just do things that I enjoy. So it doesn't. I think that there's a big misconception about IB where it like consumes everything, like all your time and your effort, but it really doesn't as long as you just manage your time.
So this is, I find this very important, especially for you seniors, you're about to graduate. Since you're in the IB program, you're kind of highlighted for these, well-known institutions. And the question is, do you guys have any opportunities to sit down with your counselor or the IB coordinator to discuss plans on scholarships or ways to get the funds necessary for you to pay the tuition for your schools, because they do get pretty expensive?
I think that like there are a couple of opportunities, like at least for me, where I was able to earn some scholarships. One thing that I did is there's a practice SAT that's available at our school, like for sophomores and juniors. So I took that and I scored well enough, and I qualified for an award. It's not necessarily a scholarship, but it's an award, and I ended up getting that award from College Board. So I think that's one way that people tend to get some kind of like award or recognition. In regards to your statement about tuition and like making sure that students are equipped financially to handle like college, I think that that's a conversation that your counselors are definitely prepared to have with you. And that's something that I was concerned with, given that a lot of the schools that I was interested in were private institutions. And obviously that would mean that most of them, at least on paper, cost more. But even though I haven't gotten any of my acceptances back yet, so I wouldn't be able to tell you how much money they gave me or anything like that, or even whether I was accepted or not. But there are ways that you can inform them of your situation, like with your family, what your income is, and they'll take those things into account when giving you aid. Like there are a lot of really good private institutions that give a lot of financial aid to students that are like challenging themselves academically and who are high achieving. So I would say that that's been good.
The teachers and the counselors also really help you to determine what kind of school you want to do. In fact, we dedicate, I think, about a week just researching what kind of school you would like, what major you would like, to really help you decide what route you want to take. So I was really appreciative of that because I had no idea what I wanted to do as a junior. So being able to get that support from my teachers really helped me to know what kind of path I want to go on in the future.
All right. Thank you so much. I think they deserve a clap.
They were not paid. You did not pay them or scare them to speak to you tonight.
I did ask them, but they could have said no. So I'm gonna let them go. Depending on their time constraints, they may be in the lobby to answer questions, but they may not, because they may have to go home.
So if you do have specific individual questions, I will be available to answer. Dr. Sidhu will be able to answer. One person that I did not introduce because she was helping greet people is Ms. Visali Bennett. She is our IB counselor and our lead counselor at Kennedy High School. So we will be around. I do have Chromebooks set up in the lobby. If you would like some help figuring out how to do the transfer process, we have them set up for the AUHSD website, so we will transition that way and be able to answer questions about that and help you with that transfer process. The transfer window for intra-district transfers is January 31st. So that form needs to be filled out. You also have the Kennedy phone number that can be patched through to my classroom, also my email. I put Ms. Bennett's information on your handout as well, and she is able to answer questions as well. Yes. Thank you so much for showing up. Thank you.